Welcome to this week's episode of Load In, Load Out, a tour story podcast recorded in Athens, Georgia, in association with Kindercore Industries. This week, our guests are Guantanamo Baywatch. Cash Carter sat down with the garage rock band shortly after Christmas dinner. Topics of conversation include, but are not limited to, pushing the van across the finish line, handling the ego of Jeremy Piven in Hawaii, and the elusive identity of Jonny Cat. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show.
So anyway, this is Load In, Load Out, Cash Carter. I got a special co-host today, Senator Artie Mondello, and we're here with Baywatch. If you guys all want to go around and introduce yourselves, so you play in the band.
My name is Chevelle, and I play bass.
I'm Chris. I play the drums and the wheelchair.
Jason, I play guitar.
Cool.
And I'm Jordan. I, too, play guitar in this particular band.
That's definitely his voice.
So you guys have been touring quite a bit. I mean, if you want to give a little bit of background of the band, that's fine. I know Ryan likes to get the origin story. So, like, did you all meet in Portland?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to tell?
Yeah, Chevy and I met in school. Yeah, like...
Steven Slappy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Met in college. And Chris was playing in a different band that we used to play with a lot.
What band was that?
It's called Boom. And it's kind of like, back in that, I guess, that year in Portland, there's a bunch of new bands just starting up.
When was this?
09? Something like that? 2009 or 8. And there's tons of new bands that just, people just moved there from wherever, and also just bands just starting up.
It's like that old Dead Milkman song, everybody, come on everybody, we're moving to Portland.
Yep. It's just like that. And there's so all the bands that were coming up were all the same age, and we all played the shows together all the time.
There's a lot of venues, too, and a lot of house shows that were, still going, too. So it was easy. Playing a lot of shows real quick.
And we had a drummer that we didn't have anymore, and then we needed a new one suddenly. And Chris was the person that had played with us a billion times, and so we were just like, can you just jump on the show? And you think you could figure out the songs?
I kind of knew the songs already just from playing and from seeing them play,
The osmosis.
Around town.
He just soaked it in.
Yeah.
Sort of like when Bart Simpson's in France for, working in the winery and shit, and doesn't realize he's learned French this entire time.
Exactly like that.
And he knew French as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Happens to know French.
So were you guys Guantanamo Baywatch at that point when you joined?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had just got back from our first U.S. tour, and we had just had our first record pressed through Work Sound Records and Hovercraft. That's what it was. Yeah, Hovercraft, and then after that tour, we needed a new drummer.
That tour took care of the first one.
Took care of the second one, actually.
Yeah.
We already got through the first one.
And he jumped on it immediately. And they had a really big show coming up, actually, that Steven Slappy was a part of through the art thing in Portland, and he had to play this
giant
show with us. So
the background is that
giant for us.
This guy Steven Slappy I grew up with, was their teacher,
mentor in college.
Yeah, one of my teachers. Yeah,
my teacher.
So how long was it before you started touring with them? Immediately?
Probably that year.
Okay.
Yeah, we never
really
did
stopped 3 or 4 tours that year.
You guys are road dogs. You guys tour a lot.
Yeah, we used to a lot.
Yeah.
We still do, but now it's it's different. We used to just get in the van, just go
2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah. Usually about 3 times a year, and then a bunch of little stuff down through California.
Which is kind of the way I've talked about this a lot. It used to be that way. You were touring for a while before you put out albums. You were touring a while before. So it's some of these younger bands, and I'm not dissing them in a way. This is definitely certainly a good way to do it, and there are benefits to it. But so these younger bands, they have an album out before they tour, and they're on a label and are known before they tour, and so they start touring, and then they don't have any songs for their next album. They've got to write them pretty quickly, and that's why a lot of some of these bands that are coming out now are one album wonders, because it's they had back in the day you'd have 30 or 40 songs before your first album comes out, so you've still got songs to record.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a handful of songs. Like our sets were really short.
Our songs were 2 minutes each.
Yeah, real short songs, real short sets, and we actually did get our first record before our first tour, and that's why we did the tour.
We didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, because it was like, fuck, we got these right. Like, we're not going to sit. No one in town wants these. Like, there's like 200 of these. You know, like how are we ever going to sell 200 records? You know, so that's why I bought a van and
we booked it on MySpace.
Yep.
And over the phone.
Took about 4 months.
We actually booked shows like where you call the bar.
That's how you used to do it.
Yeah. That was.
And can we play? And we didn't have smartphones or anything, so we had to like drive around and look for Starbucks and ask for directions.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was why we did the first tour, because it's like, all right, we'll do this one tour, and then we're gonna, get on to doing art stuff like what we had gone to school to do
with our lives.
And then it was like kind of came back, and
so you guys were on the cusp of that. We talked about that a lot, like touring. 20 years ago, there was no smartphones, there was no GPS. There wasn't email. You called the club, you got a show, you got into town, you didn't know where it was, you had to go like Starbucks or go somewhere on payphone and call and be like, okay, we're here, where are you?
Yeah.
And sometimes you show up and they forgot there was a show.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it took so long to book that, and we were booking just such turd places that they were like, and this place we were called, they're like, sometimes we have shows. Like, sure, you can come play. And it was like 3 months later, we just show up, and they're like, no one told me. Like, oh, yeah. But it was I mean, now, like, after doing all the tours we've done, I look back and, like, that was, like, an amazingly successful tour for what it should have been. I mean, what it could have been.
We did every place we could think of. We went to every city. We literally,
it was like 35 dates.
Yeah,
your first tour.
And we didn't have any days off.
No days off.
I don't think so.
In a $500...
No wonder you lost your cover.
Yeah, a $500 van, and when we just did it, and like most bands, it's like surprising me now, like do like little bitty ones first and like try it out.
A couple weeks, like a week tour.
We jumped straight into it without looking back. I'm like, why did we do that?
Well, it was just we were like, why not? At that point, it was sort of like, because I remember like thinking about it, be like, well, we're already going to be here, like let's just go a little bit farther. Let's go. And to me, I was like, well, this is the only tour we'll ever do. This is the only time in my life I'm ever going to get to go around the country and maybe it wasn't for free by any means, but cheaply. It was like, how am I ever going to go to Washington D.C. if
and I just graduated from college, and
I did too.
We kind of treated it more than we do now, like a vacation. Like I know we like went shopping more, and we were like seeing the sights more than we do since then. And it was like really fun. And now when we do it, we're like, don't do any of that stuff. We're a little more lazy.
It's
now.
Like some people again talked about this quite a bit. Some people think it's just like a party all the time when you're on tour. They think that like they have this idea of rock stars. It's like, no, mostly it's just sitting in a van for 12 hours. And by the time you get somewhere and you play, you're like, I don't want to go party. I want to go sleep.
I don't remember that tour being like a deep party tour. I just think
it was really fun. We didn't have a fucking clue what we were doing. And
we just never been to any of these cities before. We wanted to see like New Orleans and like go.
It was a good excuse to do it. And
I don't think I'd really been off of the West Coast except to like maybe Alaska or something. But like that was my first time going into the country.
Was there anything from that tour that specifically sticks out that was insane or worthy of mentioning?
The whole thing was insane.
Nothing that we can mention.
Not worth mentioning, but insane to us, maybe. Trying to remember. I mean, first time going to New Orleans.
Yeah, that was really fun. We learned a lot. I remember just like not knowing how to deal with like different sound guys, and like I remember we played a show in Salt Lake City where do you
remember where you played?
No, I remember they put the local band insisted on playing after us, and then playing before us, and then we had to play last. It was our first time ever there, and then I remember they called last call at 12:30.
Right.
Last call right when we were starting our first song, and we were like, what the hell, guy? And and then the sound guy, the mics were all broken and got mad at us, and we just. Our first time having to deal with those kind of situations, not ever even assuming that would happen.
Right.
Well, yeah, because in town in Portland, it was like we pretty much knew all the bars. We drank at all the bars we played at. So it's like we knew the sound guys, and it was like, and we didn't care because we were playing basement shows mostly. We weren't even playing bars actually.
No, we played house shows.
It was pretty much all house shows.
How long had you been playing before you went on this first tour?
About a year, I think.
But we played a lot. We just decided once we started, it was any show people offer us, we're just going to play it. And
that's the way to do it.
It was so bad. I mean, like, unbelievably.
It still is the way to do it. I mean,
to nobody and just to any venue, and like the venues that everyone told us not to play at, we're like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll play every night.
Yeah. Our set was maybe 7 songs long.
Right.
You know, I mean, so it was like, that's fine.
And we didn't ever expect to get
So you're playing
paid.
a set where, like, setting up takes longer than the actual set.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, our gear was so shitty that it really did. It was just like...
We would leave at the end of the night. I remember,
like no pedals, no
I remember one show we got $25 the end of the night. We were like, yes, we can get burritos. You know, like, we just never got paid. And I never expected it. I remember, like...
It was impossible to get paid.
The first few times we got paid, I was like, you're paying us to do that? Like, we were just doing it kind of for fun.
Right.
And then when we got back, there was a festival called PDX Pop Now, which was sort of like a local music festival. And so it's just all local bands. And it was kind of a racket. It was kind of total bullshit. But they, like, when we got back from that tour, it was like, it was cool. It was like we were actually getting write-ups in the paper, and we got asked to play this festival and stuff. And it was like, oh, whoa, this is kind of bizarre.
Like, we came back as a real band, sort of.
Yeah, because in Portland it was
left as a local band, came back as like a national act.
Yeah, equally as shitty.
Equally as shitty. A little bit more ragged and tired. We needed a new drummer at that point.
Yeah,
but I don't really remember other bands that were like in the same like group like as us that were really touring. Except maybe the White Fang went on tour with Boom, and it was.
So you guys, that was even after Baywatch.
Was it?
The Boom White Thing one, I think.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, I remember like we were the only band that like started in the same scene, and we just took off. And I remember friends texting me, they're like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm on tour." And they're like, "Oh, like I can't believe you actually are on tour." Because bands in Portland just kind of didn't do that.
Yeah, there was bigger bands. I mean, there was a million. You know, there was like huge bands in Portland at the time.
Everclear.
Yeah, so I mean, they were all touring, but like. Basement bands were touring. None of the bands that we played with, none of the artistry bands were touring.
Yeah.
Well, after getting out on the road, you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Was there anything where you felt like, oh shit, this is it, we're done, we're dying here, we're never making it out of this situation?
Of the band or the
of
tour?
The city that we're in. So many. Oh, that was what I thought. It was like I can think of 1,000 times when I was like, we're actually gonna have to move to the city and get jobs and kill ourselves.
The van broke down a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, of course.
We went through. We've got a good van now. Don't talk shit on this van.
You don't have a good van now.
No, that's what are you talking about? It's been like 3 years with this van. That's the longest. And
it's small.
Stop it.
It's not nice, but it's good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just like it's.
Don't talk poorly about.
So you guys are in like a minivan now.
A minivan.
Right?
Yeah.
Minivan.
We built up the top.
Our fifth
We talked. I talked to Deerhoof about this, and it's like the good thing about the minivan is, although you guys do have stickers on the back, but.
Oh, our stickers are not band stickers, though.
Right, but the good thing about minivans is you're not a target. You're less of a target than you are if you're in like a big 15-passenger van.
I have a sticker on the back that says "God bless our truckers."
Yeah,
and that one I feel like gets us through all the tours because truckers like us and cops think we're religious, so it's great.
I mean, I guess our van has gotten us through the past 3 years.
I don't want
to. It's been a good van. It's just that it's like on this last.
I don't want to. Let's not talk too deeply about what's going on with the van, but we've had vans that like got us a few states away, and then we've been stuck. We've been like in hotels for like 4 or 5 days where we're just like, oh my god, like we're gonna die.
Shows.
Oh yeah, we had to drive from
Junction
City, Kansas,
for like 3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days, and we had to drive 24 hours straight just to play a free show at Burger. I don't know why we decided that show was.
I remember the best one was. Well, I won't go into the whole story, but the best one. Chevelle had this money saved up, and we were going to get a van with it before the tour. Chevelle gives the money to her mom to buy a van, because her mom says she's found a van in Ohio or somewhere.
Idaho.
And her mom drives it here, spends all of our money on this van. Doesn't have any locks. The back is like welded shut, so you can't open the back up. The steering column is like broken in half. I don't know how they got it there. Like... I mean, it's like a piece of shit and spent all of the money.
Like a conversion van.
Well, but then what I ended up doing was I went on Craigslist.
You swindled somebody.
And I swindled someone. Same way that there's nothing we could do. We had to go on tour. So I got this like probably very nice lady to buy it, and then immediately just ignored her calls when she was like, why is it making this sound? And then we bought me and
so we got like half the money though that we had saved
And
up.
then we went out and got another, like a GMC Safari that was good. I felt like it was good.
It wasn't good.
It
was not good.
It wasn't good.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode. This week, we want to shine the spotlight on Girls Rock Athens, a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering girls and women of all backgrounds and abilities through music education, creation, and performance. They provide leadership opportunities, build self-esteem, and provide girls with a safe space to express themselves. To that end, the Kindercore Company Band Team Building Exercise will be performing as a part of the Boys Who Rock for Girls benefit, benefiting Girls Rock Athens on February 11th at Little King's Shuffle Club. Doors are at 9 p.m. Thanks for listening, and we hope you're enjoying the show.
Good, but it lasted till Ozona, Texas, the middle of Texas. We were there with the Mean Jeans, and it broke down about 50 miles outside of Ozona, and we had to get towed that far. And then this is a town where there's no hotels, like, with rooms open, because it's all oil people. And so the tow truck guy literally just drops how many of us? Six of us off. Mm-hmm. He's like, at the mechanic shop, he's like, here you go. And we were like, is there a bar? And he's like,
mechanic shop's not open. It's like closed. It's like closed. We're just leaving our van with all of our gear.
And there's 6 of us
in this fuck town.
And
it's like a dirt road.
And he's like, well, there's one bar. It's open till midnight. This was a dry county until like a few months ago. So we walked down to the bar, and I was like, maybe we'll make friends. And we get in there, and there's like oil guys with guns, and it's just like terrifying. Right?
And like the record scratches, and they all turn around and look at you.
Well, that's what I guess we were scared of. But we ended up
making friends with the cook and the waitress who were married, and they let us stay in their
terrifying
trailer. And
the side of their trailer was spray painted, and it had the word Crips. Somebody crossed it out and wrote Bloods over it.
A goat had like eaten all the siding off of the corner,
and they literally drove us there in the back of their pickup truck. And I was like, "This is the beginning of a scary movie." Like, we're gonna get killed.
It was like actually scary.
Yeah, I had a situation like that in Unadilla, Georgia, where our van broke down. This is when I was living in Jacksonville. This is my old band, the Cadets, and some guy chained our van up to the back of his pickup truck, drove us into Unadilla, Georgia, and we stayed. Well, he was having us stay in his family's complex, which is a bunch of trailers and houses all cobbled together. And he took us to like one of those pop-up trailers.
Yeah.
And it was waist high of tin cans.
Oh my god!
And we were supposed to sleep in there. And we dropped Isaac off because he just moved to Atlanta, and we were driving back to Florida, and so we had to call Isaac back up. And he got us in his Honda. Somehow got all of our equipment in the Honda.
What?
I was sitting on amps in the back and drove us back down to Florida, and we just left a note. It was like, keep the van, took the tag.
No way.
Keep the van, thanks for the hospitality, and just left. I remember the guy's name. His name was Lonnie Parker in Unadilla, Georgia.
Hit him up.
Lonnie
Parker, if you're listening to this.
I'm sure that van's still in the same exact spot.
When we showed up, there were these 2 like teenagers in their living room of their trailer, and they were like
native kids. They were like some adopted kind of like Native American kids, like lived with these 2 like young hillbillies.
But they were named Ninja and Jackie O.
So we walk in, and they're sitting on the couch, and both of them just like turn to look at us, and they're watching like some super violent like anime like Ninja Gaiden or something. I don't know. And so they're like, it's just like the weirdest scene. It's like a shotgun. It's a trailer, so it's like you can see the whole thing. And they're just like staring at us on this couch watching like insanely violent anime. And it's like, oh yeah, that's Jackie O and Ninja. And they're just like, they didn't say a word the entire
all night. But we bought like hundreds of beers because we were like, and we were literally sitting trying to talk to them and just like, and just like kept just chugging them.
I'm going to forget this night somehow.
And eventually the couple that lived there were like, y'all like a vodka? And we're like, yeah. And they were like,
we all just wanted like hard alcohol.
Yeah, just to get fucked up.
We had like 30 beers between 6 people.
They took these bottles of vodka off the shelf, and they
said they made infused vodka.
Yeah.
Themselves. I was like,
and we
all
had
right.
to help them.
So it was water bottles with vodka in them, and you put Jolly Ranchers in and shake them up until they dissolve.
But you can't. We weren't allowed to drink them until they were dissolved.
Minutes.
So we'd have
They're
to
like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. No, don't try it yet. Like, just wait. You're gonna be so happy.
We're all shaking like, can we just drink the vodka?
We're
I don't
over
care
this.
what it tastes like.
Was it good?
No. Also, the guy that lived there had a KKK tattoo, which he told us was a Legend of Zelda tattoo, and then I immediately looked it up on my phone. I was like, that's not what that is. It was weird. They made like Totino's pizza and put like crazy bullshit on it. It was. We all woke up at like 6 in the morning and just left. Like, I think we went to bed at 5 and we woke up at 6 and just left. And then the guy at the mechanic shop laughed. He didn't speak any English. When I was like, we're trying to get to Austin, he laughed in my face. We bought a starter for $200, and then I don't know how, but Richard from the Mean Jeans like broke the shit out of the van just to get it to Austin. Like, never could idle it. So like it was always like
you had to keep your foot on the gas,
revving it, breaking it, and revving it, breaking it.
Yeah.
And when we got to our show, we literally broke down a few blocks from the show, pushed it up to the show, and then the three of us ran in and played.
It was like the most. Well, I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't really embarrassed, but it was just like we literally were like pushing our band into, and it's at South by Southwest, like Spider House. There's like 50 bands there and like 200 people. Like
and
outside
probably
drinking.
all were like, yep, been there before.
Yeah. And we got up on stage. It was like the worst show ever. Where I couldn't even remember playing because I was just like, my fucking van. And then we had to tow it to junk the car. We bought a Dodge Ram for $1,000 from someone.
Bought a pickup truck and drove it back to Portland.
Which was a pretty good deal for a good pickup gas guzzler.
How, you got 6 people into a pickup truck?
No, they flew home.
The three
They're like, fuck this. They're like, fuck you guys.
They didn't want to hang out.
left. Yeah.
Wow.
And we kind of actually swindled the guy with the truck, too, because he was their friend, and he was blacked out drunk. And he's like, yeah, I got a truck for $1,000. We're like, all right, we'll be there in the morning. Like, serious?
We have
serious. And the next morning, like, we show up, and he's like,
so bummed.
Huh? What? Oh. And we were just like, yeah, we need it. And
like, sign over the title, and he was just like, oh. Like, he just...
like, he really didn't.
And then once I got back to Portland, I had to junk that one, too, because it wasn't, like, that good. And that was, like... It broke down immediately. It was fun to drive a Dodge Ram, though.
Yeah.
With Texas plates.
All the way back up to Portland.
And it had the Longhorn sticker in the back.
How many hours did you guys just drive straight, or did you try to stop anywhere?
Oh, no, we toured back.
We had shows.
Yeah, we toured back in the truck.
We had to cover our equipment with tarps. And then there was a horrible storm.
We got stuck in a storm in New Mexico,
and we were just like holding the tarps down. It was stupid. And then every time you go to a gas station, you can't all go to the bathroom. You have to have someone watch the bathroom.
Right, of course. You can't stay anywhere. Like, someone has to sleep in the truck, right?
No,
we
just had to
unload
load
the truck every night into like someone's house or the hotel room.
But when we started, because me and him both had trucks, when we started, we were a truck band where we just went to every venue in one of our trucks. And so you always just know, once you get there, you load straight in. And when you're ready to go, you all have to go.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Wow. So that was, you were in the band at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I had done a few tours up until then, and this was my second time going to South by Southwest. The first time was with Baywatch. It was our first tour, and it was my first time going like all over the country. I think. I'm pretty sure.
So you're like, this is what being in a band is like. Fuck this.
Yeah, like I did an 8 tour with Boom in this band called White Fang, and we just did a West Coast thing, and it was like, okay, cool, this is rad. And then when I started playing with Baywatch, we did this tour around South by Southwest, and Boom came with, so we did like.
It's just one other member.
That one went good, though. That was a good tour.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
His other band only had one other guy, so he just had to do double duty.
I just played drums twice, 2 sets at night.
That means double drink tickets, too.
Right.
And then the second time was, I think it was that Mean Jeans tour or whatever.
Were you guys all getting along at that point?
It was pretty stressful. Like, I was pretty high strung back then about like.
Well, and that was all
getting
just
the places,
like,
and we weren't making like we weren't getting guarantees. You know? It was like so it was like always kind of worried about money, and because we had so many van problems, and all of our vans have had problems, so it was always like trying to not starve, but like save up, get enough saved up so when the van did break down.
And if the van breaks down, that's like all of our lives are fucked at that exact moment, and so everyone's pretty like upset and stressed out, basically.
You also, I mean, like in situations like that, you learn how to deal with people, and you learn it's almost like this great life lesson where you can deal with problems and deal with people in situations that I think other people don't have to experience that and don't have those kind of skills to like, my whole world's falling apart, but we can figure out how to all get along for this time.
It's true. Yeah, I feel like every day of tour could be that stressful.
Right.
And we just had to learn how to take it as it comes and like not get upset all the time.
Was there ever a situation where was the antithesis to that, where it was like, this is exactly why we do it? Like, this is like, is there any show that stands out that's like, this is why we're musicians, this is why we do it, this is why we tour, this makes it all worth it?
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
It's mostly those.
That's the thing. It's mostly that, and then there's
just to be able to travel. Like, I think all three of us like just traveling.
Is there any specific show that stands out that like?
I don't know. I feel like most of the times, like when we play Austin, that like outside of South by, I mean, not that that's bad, but like when we were just there like a couple weeks or like last week, and that always feels so good because we have so many fans and they like really care, and just like shows like that where like you play a city where people really know you and they like.
Playing The Smell was like that too, and LA was like, or I don't know. Yeah,
you're playing a venue where you know a lot of people that you respect have played, and you shared the
sure, or it's just like, oh fuck, like there's this many like kids that
like real fans
are stoked, like shit, I don't dance like that at a show. You know? Like I guess that for me, that was like the biggest one where it was like I always felt like on stage, like if you wanted kids to dance, like you had to do what you expected them to do.
Yeah,
you know, so like if you want them to like mosh or like, you know, dance around, like on stage you should be doing the same thing, which is not necessarily true, but that's always kind of how I thought about it, you know. And so it's like when you're finally playing shows where it's like, oh shit, this song's hard, I can't really like dance around, I gotta kind of stand here for a second to play this part, you know, but the kids are still dancing. Like,
so people are like crowd surfing for a slow song, and you're like, that's it.
Yeah,
and they're crowd surfing, and they know the words. Like, they know that they chose the slow song to still crowd surf to.
It's a crazy feeling when you're looking out at the audience and they're singing. You can see them mouthing the words.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah. I remember we had this show. I don't remember. It was like our first time in this town in Texas called McAllen.
McAllen.
It's like the south, like the most like southern tip of Texas.
Bottom.
And we were like late to this show. It's like all ladies show. We were late, and we get there. We pull up, and there's kids with our record in their hands, and they're banging on the van for us to get out and like take pictures with them
we
and
thought it was
sign
gonna
the
be canceled.
records.
We were that late.
Right.
And that was my first time ever. I was like, huh? Like people, these kids really like. For one, they know who we are, you know.
Right.
And we played that show, and it was insane. And it was just like, what? Like, it was like a blur. Like, you showed up, it was crazy, played a set, it was crazy, and then left. And
People
we were just
like brought us like gifts and stuff. Like, they were like, I got this for you. And like, there were like little kids there that like walked from their house and they wanted like buttons and stuff. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit is like, makes it worthwhile to have like a breakdown every once in a while.
Or if it's like a show where like you get up on stage, you can tell everyone's just like, fuck these guys, you know. And then by the end, people are like, dude, that was pretty sick, you know. Like those are good times too, you know. Like actually, like winning over a crowd that doesn't know you or something, like that's always fun. I like
that's my favorite thing.
Yeah,
because when there's no expectations, you don't have, when there's no expectations, you don't have to worry about falling short of them. So you can just kind of create.
I think that's I think it's also why we used to play really short sets, because I found like you could do that more often with a really short set. You know, like it was over before people
got sick of it.
I mean, well, or at least could figure out like, you know, be like, oh, now I see what they're doing. They're just cramps and you know, or whatever. You know, like if you only have like 6-song set at the end, you're like, oh, like. Well, that didn't.
It's like a sucker punch, a real quick one.
Yeah. And then you're kind of like, oh, well,
I wish I could hear more.
They didn't like it, you know. It was over pretty fast.
Is there any other stories about being on the road that stick out to you guys that like are some of your favorite stories?
Yeah.
Someone told me about a skunk.
Skunk in the funeral home. Was that on a tour?
That was just my life.
His actual life. It's just a tour story.
What happened with that?
It's just a college story. When I first went to college, I got locked out of like the first week before school started. I got locked out of the dorms, like, which I was getting locked out of the dorms like every night. And it's like,
school hadn't even begun yet.
Yeah, right? School hadn't begun. Like people were still kind of like moving into these dorms, and I was like still losing my key, just getting completely fucked up, like by myself. I didn't know anybody, you know. And then I was walking around. I was like really embarrassed for some reason. I lost my key again. I didn't like knock on the door at like 4 a.m, like shit-faced drunk. So I sleeping in this bush behind this like crematorium, and I got these like goldfish crackers, and so I passed out with a box of goldfish crackers in my hand. And when I woke up, still in the middle of the night, there was a skunk with its head like in the box that was in my hand. I was just so drunk and cold, and it was just, you know, this is like Oakland, so I was like kind of scared, you know, to be like, and I was just like, fuck this. I just went back to bed.
At least you didn't scare it.
You couldn't leave.
Well, that was my fear. I was like, Jesus Christ, school doesn't even start. I'm going to come home, I'm going to be covered in leaves. I'm going to be like missing my card, and I'm going to smell absolute shit, you know. And like no one even knows me yet at school.
Have you ever slept on a bush on tour before? I don't think.
If I do, I don't remember.
It's hard to imagine them not those.
I know, most nights
there's been some bizarre, you know, like when I was single, you know, like just going home with really bizarre people and just being like, oh god, and like everyone trying to find each other in the morning.
On tour, I don't remember the rest of it. Do we ever sleep outside? I know the first time we went to Hawaii, they like booked us and we didn't have anywhere to stay, but we were like, oh, free ticket to Hawaii. And so our plan was literally we were going to sleep on our guitar cases in a park, just sleep on them, and then we actually found someone we could stay with. But that was like I think the closest we got.
I don't know.
You're one of the bands I've known, talked to that's actually gone and played in Hawaii.
Yeah, we just came back like a couple weeks ago.
How do you play in Hawaii?
Well, the first time there was a festival called No Suck Fest that doesn't exist anymore.
Because everybody starts sucking?
Yeah, it starts to suck. No, I think the guy that started it moved to LA, and everyone's so like Hawaii, hang loose, chill. They don't really want to like the stress of running a festival. But it was cool, and we just played like 2 or 3 shows, and we were there for like, I don't know, 4 days maybe, and then we didn't think we were going to go back, and we were just in Australia, and we were just talking about like, oh, I wish we'd go back to Hawaii, that's so cool. And then our friend who runs Crap Sunglasses, he was like helping them do this Billabong thing for the Pipeline Surf competition there.
Putting together a party for Billabong.
Yeah.
And they were running the band's Triple Crown like surf contest. And then they were having a party for Billabong, and he's like, dude, you guys want to like come out and play the party? Like, I bet I could get Billabong to like front the tickets. We're like, fuck yeah.
Yes. And we got to stay in like a villa, and like it was.
Got to stay in Turtle Bay. It was completely retarded. Like,
yeah.
Shit we don't deserve.
We do not deserve it, yeah.
At all.
Jeremy Piven played drums for us for a song.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
He got on stage.
He was good.
Was he?
He wasn't bad.
Is he a nice guy? He's one of my favorites.
He was a nice guy. He chit-chatted with all of us beforehand.
Yeah, me and him hung out for like 15 minutes. And he was nice. He was like, I can tell he was like wanting to be nice, you know?
Right.
But also he had this weird entitlement thing going on.
Ah, okay.
Well, why would you go to a show and not know the band and be like, I'm playing, can I, but I'm playing drums on one of your songs.
I'm playing drums. Because I was like talking about, he was like, all I knew was talking to him, and he was like, he wanted to do a cover. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool, I guess. Like, what song were you to have in mind? And he's like, I don't know, like Piss and Petty or like Brown Sugar or something.
Like, well, we don't know those songs.
And I was like, I don't think we know those ones. So I was like, I can try to mess around with the drums and play anything really. And he's like, no, I'm playing the drums. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool. I was like, cool, man. That sounds great.
It's just weird, like, how do you get that famous that you get to that point where you'll go to anyone you don't know and you're like, I'm playing.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm sure there's...
I thought he wanted to sing. Life. You know, it's like I was like, I thought he wanted to go up there and sing.
No, he wanted to play drums.
But he wanted to play the drums.
I mean, this is the kind of person who probably doesn't hear no a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and he did a great job.
Yeah?
He was fine.
What did you guys play?
Okay.
No, I mean, he
was great. He was good. He's okay.
What did you guys play?
We do a cover of the song Diana by Paul Anka, and he did good. And he didn't know the song at all, and he followed along.
He dropped his sticks the first note. He was like, 1, 2. I leaned over to him, I was like, dude, you got this, man.
And then we saw him on the airplane the next... he left on the same flight that we did.
But he was in first class.
And he was like in the first seat, and I had to like stop there because of the line. And he kind of looked up, and I could tell like he didn't really want to talk to me. And I was like, oh, what's up? And he was just like, he was like, it was pretty good. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
But, you know, we haven't had too many stories that you said that you would end up at someone's house and just wake up in weird situations.
Yeah,
any of those that stand out? I've been touring for 20 years. I'd never like hooked up with anybody. I'd never kissed anybody. Nothing like that. And I was finally single and like on the tour. And I was like, fuck it. This is the tour where I'm going to like allow myself to do this kind of thing. And I did hook up with a couple people, but they were all friends from home.
Yeah. It's not as easy. I mean, as a girl, it's a different story. But I don't think it's easy as people think.
And it doesn't happen as often as people think. I mean, like...
That's not true. We know a lot of bands where, like, every night, one
really?
guys in the band to be.
How does that happen? How do they do that?
I just don't think it's our vibe. I mean,
it's just like the vibe. You just have to be, like, cooler than us. I think you just have to act like...
Well, I mean, the thing is, like...
I care about, like, getting up early and leaving and making good time the next day more than I care about hooking up with someone I don't like that much.
Right. Like, you drive into town, you typically either stay at a friend's house or leave. Now, if you do meet someone, it's like you don't know this person, and you're going to go home with them and having no idea what's going to happen when you get there. Like, they can be one of those people who's like, okay, now you're at my house and you're not leaving.
Yeah.
You know, that type of situation.
And I can't, like, call anyone and be like, come pick me up, because they're all wasted. You know, like, it's easier for me to just, like, let's just stick as a group. And you're usually exhausted by that point anyway, and, like...
But yeah, because sometimes you're going to have to drive 10 hours next day, and you don't have to wrangle everybody up to go and
a lot of times,
leave.
like, finding the best sleeping spot is more important to me than hooking up with someone.
And the Monarchy 5 like, is Denny's Cat's Brothers band. I mean, this probably can't make it on the air, but they were notorious for, like, they were the worst as far as, like you know, put an eyedropper of dye into water, spreads every which direction. Every show, no matter how close or how far, somehow by the end of the night they were all in different god-awful directions.
It can be on the podcast because Denny was never one of them, but it was always...
Yeah, Denny was... But like John, the bass player, I remember one time...
And fucking Adam, certainly, and certainly Charles.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, God, Charles is the worst. Yeah, in the best way, I mean, like...
but at least Charles, you kind of had an idea where he was. I remember one time, John, it was when Julia stayed the night, and... it's like she was John's ride home the next day, but we had no idea where the hell he was. We knew he went home with a friend, but we had absolutely no idea. He finally finds my phone number about...
Oh, so he didn't have anybody's phone number?
Except for, like, Denny or all these people that had already left. And
this is here in Atlanta?
No, this was way back in my bachelor days.
In Orlando.
And he calls, he went home with a buddy of his. His buddy had to go to work, like, before John woke up, so both he and Julie have to work that afternoon. We have no idea where the hell he is. He has no idea where, in relation to Orlando, it is. I finally got him to go through the garbage till we found an old piece of mail of his buddies there that had an
before
address.
Phones.
Yeah.
So how do you find an address?
Yeah. So I had to, like, look it up on MapQuest to find out where he was, and I just, like, the nearest highway is, like, you know, 4 blocks, like, walk out there and wave, and we'll track
the backstory is Artie's in a band, 3 bands with my brother, one of them that I'm also in, but Mondello's, Delusionaires, and The Harmonious Fist with me and my brother. But, yeah, you know, people think that their touring is a certain way, but it's really mostly finding a place to eat, playing, and finding a place to sleep. Yeah. And that's pretty much tour, right? I mean, like...
I mean, we try to make an effort to do, like, fun stuff if possible. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes that's, like, if you just drive and you just do eating and stuff, like, by the, you know, the second week you're, like, going insane. You know, so, like, we try to look for, like, some, like, real roadside. I mean, even if it's, like, okay, here's Mount Rushmore. Let's all get out and look at it. Right. You know? So we felt like nothing major. It's just, you know, like, if we can.
Don't do that. Some bands go on tour,
we just
and
love
they just
traveling.
like don't. They like stay. They like, get somewhere early, you know, and they like just stay in the venue.
Yeah,
and they don't.
Or they get a hotel early.
Check out the city at all.
Yeah,
they don't care
What's
to.
The point?
They stay in the van. You know, they don't talk to anyone. And I get that vibe sometimes too.
Especially if you've been on the road for a long time.
Yeah, but most of the time I'm just like, oh, I'm in a new place. I'm gonna go check it out. Like, let's go do something.
Well, actually, case in point though, like where y'all said that you were when you got the Billabong thing in Hawaii, you were in Australia at the time.
Yeah.
Now, how many times y'all toured Australia?
This is our second time.
Second time. And
what's it like touring there?
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
It's great. It's like the U.S., but people are like excited about music.
Well, there's not that many bands from over there, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
some now. Like, it's getting more where more bands. It's becoming a more regular thing to go over there.
So Australia is definitely my number one place that I want to go, whether on tour or just in general.
Sure,
it's awesome.
Do both.
It's really cool.
Because I mean, the music scene there is great, and especially in Melbourne, like there's shows every night, and it's not just like some cities have shows every night, but that doesn't mean it's good. But like
a lot of good bands.
I was there for a month after like the tour was over, and I would go to any random show at a venue, and it's amazing. Like there's like really good bands all the time, and they're not like famous because it's hard for them to become, because there's only a few cities to play there.
Right.
You can get to a certain level there, but until you leave, which is so expensive, like you're kind of stuck. And like even the new bands, like there's really good, like high quality.
There's some good recording places out there apparently, because like it seems like every one of the bands that you get their CD, it's like good. It's like, fuck, this sounds awesome.
It's not like dirty and weird. Like it's.
Well,
sometimes it is, but it's more well done than you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, whoa, these are sick recordings, and with interesting bands that are doing kind of weird stuff. But now it's getting more where like bands from there are getting really popular right now. It seems like there's kind of this like wave of like some money getting pushed into their,
but
their
I think part of it is
stuff.
that the radio there is really easy to get on the radio. Like it's not really easy, but it's here. You only have to be on college radio, but there's like a huge jump between college radio and regular radio, and there it's different. We're like our friends the Gooch Palms are from there, and they live in the U.S., but they tour there a lot. And I heard them on regular radio stations, like with like other like huge bands, and then them, and like they mix it up way better, and so it's like really normal.
I think the U.S. is worse about that. Like when you go to Europe and things like that, like for example, in Europe you'll see kids at shows, but then you see like business people at shows, and you like everyone appreciates music. Music is considered part of the culture, and people don't just stop listening to music when they're 25. You know what I mean? People don't stop caring about music when they're 25 or 30. People stay like me and Artie are the weirdos who still care about music when we're our age, but that's not uncommon there. Like it's uncommon here,
right? Yeah. I've it's like I moved, when I moved out of Orlando, pretty much everybody that had all my bands from then, except for the Mondellos, which was just two of us who were spread everywhere. But the Delusionaires, my old band there, had basically outlived our audience. The people that used to come to our shows got too old to go to shows anymore.
They died.
Yeah, a lot of them died.
They're all in their 90s. Yeah, and you've got the fans.
And so I moved up here, and I'm older than, I'd say, about 75%, conservatively, maybe 80% of my friends up here. Many of them considerably older. And I've been here like 7 years, and it's starting to get to the point where these younger people are starting to drop out. Yeah. And it's like outliving two scenes is pretty...
Well, I think living in Portland and Athens is different, because I think places like Athens and Portland, it's like Neverland.
Yeah.
No one ever outgrows it. Like, there's people who are like 60 and 70 who are old townies who are still going out to shows and still playing shows. And maybe not Portland as much anymore, but it's when you live in a place that's cheap enough that artists can live there and remain artists and not have to give it up and get a quote-unquote real job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's why I feel like Detroit is the next place that's going to be, and it's already becoming the explosion because it's so cheap to live there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of space.
It's so cold.
It is cold.
That's what my first thought whenever I think of Detroit is our tour stories of like, we're just freezing our asses off of Detroit.
Yeah, or like the last time I went to Detroit was a few years ago, and it was just like, you look around like, this is what it's going to look like after society collapses.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's weird.
We've never stayed also with anyone, because everyone's like, you could stay with us, but your car will probably get broken into.
Right.
And we're like, we'll just get a hotel at the airport or something.
I have this friend, Ryan Katie, I'm still friends with, and we stayed with him. And it was in an okay neighborhood, but it's still, there's this sense, even in those neighborhoods, it's like, I'm almost expecting to see, like, zombies wandering around at some point at, like, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, and there are people wandering, you're like, what are those people doing?
Kind of are zombies wandering.
Yeah, like zombie people wandering. I remember last time we were there, someone told us, like, if you're driving behind a car, don't drive too close, because they'll stop really far behind the stoplight, and then they'll jack your car, like, they'll, like, because I just remember someone telling me that at the venue.
I get all these calls, like, that's not what it's like here. I live here.
Yeah, but like someone stared at us so much. I was like, oh my god, like I can't even drive close behind a car.
I mean, there's been plenty of times, like even not in Detroit, where in DC, in certain parts of DC, where there was that kind of fear, or even Miami in the late '90s, where one of the times that I thought that we were going to die was like in Miami. Like it's not just Detroit. There's certain places. Certainly,
when we played in Miami, it was
also scary.
Very, very scary. There's like a dog fight in the street. Not like with people, but like pit bulls fighting in the street. We're like,
wild dogs.
Locked our doors to the car. We're like, why are we locking the car?
When was this?
A couple years ago. 2 years ago at Churchill's.
Churchill's, yeah. I mean,
but they like ran in the bar. We were like, oh my god, we're playing. But there's dogs running in. Yeah.
The dogs ran into the bar.
Yeah, but they scared them out. And no one actually got hurt. But I was just like, never seen like wild dogs in the street before. And they were like, you parked in the only spot with like the light on you, so you guys are good. And we're like,
right.
And we saw like guys like selling drugs, like right in front of our car. Like they dropped the drugs on the ground, and then people like picked them up and. We've just never seen that.
I hung out with a prostitute for
2
hours without knowing she was a prostitute.
He thought this girl was into him, and then it turned out she was a prostitute.
But she wasn't really working me. It was just like, through the conversation, I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, and then this guy bought me this phone, and then then I got these shoes from Sam.
I mean, yeah, she was just chit-chatting with you, but I remember at the end of the night, you were like, oh, she was a prostitute. And I was like, ah.
She was a very nice young lady.
Very nice young lady.
She was still
very nice, very young lady.
No, but then we, instead of going home with someone, we went to a hotel, and then we woke up super early, went to the beach, so it was like great. Like, that's what we've kind of like started doing, is like instead of like partying our asses off, like
going to the beach is usually the best choice.
You want to do the next day.
No matter where.
I remember sleeping on the beach one time out in California a long time ago. But we're talking about these places like Detroit and stuff like that. The other thing that you see when you're on tours, you go to them, and then it's like blown out area of town, and then you come back a couple of years later, and then all of a sudden it's nice. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And you see this
place.
So like you see gentrification in action because you're not living there. So if you're living there, it might happen slowly to those people. But like if you go there every few years, it's like, man, this was like a place that you would be afraid to leave your van, and now it's totally fine.
Yeah, now they're valeting your van.
Right,
in the corner.
right.
Yeah.
Now there's a Starbucks in every corner.
It does happen in reverse, though, because like there's some places like where when we used to play down. You ever play Ybor City outside Tampa and stuff?
No.
Do you know why you don't? Because it used to be fucking awesome. Like in the '90s, that was like the place everybody would like.
Ybor City,
we're playing Ybor City. This is awesome, and and so I, after I hadn't played a couple years much, and like I bring my wife down there, and it's like Ybor City, man, this is gonna be great, and it's like reverse gentrification. Like it's just like, what in the fuck did a bomb go? I mean, they had like literally, it was like in those cartoons where they move like street signs to point down roads that are not really what you need to go to. Jacksonville's kind of the same way. Where like in the '90s, Jacksonville was like, oh, this is a with us, it was always like all the people in Jacksonville was like, Orlando, man, let's play Orlando, it's gonna rock, and all the Orlando people were like, Jacksonville, it's gonna rock, and each of us thinks our own city was shit and arguing. But yeah, Jacksonville used to be
certain areas. I mean, like Shantytown. I think I've mentioned this before, where like the bartenders have had to shoot and kill people before, and like the people who live next to Shantytown will get pissed off. And instead of telling them to turn the music down, just shoot at the venue.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's part of the balance, though. So whenever you see a place, a ghetto get gentrified, know in your heart, at least there's one nice place that's now just total shit.
Yeah.
It's like somewhere out there.
An ebb and a flow.
Yeah.
You ever had somebody get shot at one of your shows?
Yes. In Kansas City?
And El Paso.
In El Paso.
Remember we were going to play a show in El Paso, and then it got moved suddenly from one venue to the other because...
Was that while we were playing, though?
No,
because the one in Kansas City was like, we were there.
Yeah. Yeah, the one in Kansas City, we were there. I don't
Just like, we were walking down the street, and like, down a little ways, there's like a gunshot, and then someone was like in the street, and like some people ran up to help them.
But I know the show in El Paso, I think it was like a billion bands. Like, it was like a mini festival just one night, and we showed up at like 9 or something to play, and it had moved, and David and told us it had moved, and so we showed up at the proper place. He was like, oh, it moved because some guy, I don't remember if it was stabbed or shot, but like someone died at the first place, and they just moved the show to a different place, and then we played. And I remember it was like,
can't mess with a chalk line yet.
I remember that. Yeah, and I think that's it, right?
Yeah,
we played at a
so.
place in LA. Remember that place where the woman took my drink away and threw it in the garbage? That
was
a week earlier. Some guy got stabbed at the show and died.
Right, but that was like.
Why'd you take your drink away and throw it in the garbage?
I didn't have my ID because I came into the band, like at the load-in area, and I just came in through that way, and I was just in the bar, but I had left my purse in the car, just like normal, like.
Sorry, old bitch.
And she was just like a security guard, and because there had been the fight like the week earlier, and someone died, they were like extra security, but I didn't know because I came to the band area, and I had my drink in my hand, my first drink. And she was like, can I see your ID? And I was like, oh, and I was looking, I was like, oh, I left my purse in my car. And she just grabbed it in my hand. She didn't even just pour it in the garbage. She like looked me in the eye and went, and like dumped it in my face and then threw it in the garbage. I was like, what the hell? And I had like the band wristband on. I was
like, I'm in a band.
And I'm like, I'm in my 30s. Like I could go to my car and get my ID. Right. It's like not a big deal. Yeah. But then it was nice. The venue like apologized and they were just like, we don't know what the security's doing. But yeah, it was because there had been like a stabbing.
You guys ever had any run-ins with cops?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Just at the Border Patrol.
No, not just at the Border Patrol. The one time when I took Jonny Cat's van.
Oh, God.
I got a $900 ticket.
Wait, what?
Oh, it could have been so much worse.
Oh, yeah. Could have been way worse.
Because we were borrowing a friend's van who only had 3 seats. And there were a few of us, and me and Chris, when we got pulled over, we were just sitting on the floor.
They were riding in the back. Like, there wasn't seats in the back. And so there was like 3 or 4 people in the back. And I kind of went through a stop sign, like kind of
rolled through it.
Yeah, kind of rolled through it and got pulled over. And so I was like, oh shit, like you guys need to like cover yourselves up with this blanket, about to get a ticket. So I pulled over and the guy's like
100 degrees too.
He's like, it was at night, so it was like kind of scary anyways. And I think it was in Pendleton, Oregon. So we were almost home. We were like so close. He's asking for the registration. We were borrowing our friend's van, which had also just broken down like a few hours before. Well, he didn't have registration, or he didn't have insurance. He had.
So you guys are van killers, basically.
Yeah. So he didn't have insurance, and he's like, "Well, whose van is it?" I'm like, "It's my friend's."
Jonny Cat. We don't know his last name.
And he's like, "What's his name?" I was like, "Jonny Cat." He's like, "Is that his real name?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like I've known this guy forever, but
we don't know his actual name.
And so he's like looking in the back, and they're like, I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like
it's obvious there's some people.
Yeah, he's like, "Are you the only 2 in here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, if I need to check the van, is that okay with you? And I was like, sure,
yes.
And then he looks at Isaac, who's the other guy in Boom, who just looks like, like you'd pull him over, Like,
he looks high.
He was like Cheech and/or Charles.
Yeah, and he's looking at me, he's like, is that all right with you? And Isaac was really high. I think he was just like, I'm not driving, And so the guy came back and he's like looking through the windows, like right at them. So I was like just about to be like, oh.
Alfredo was there.
So he comes back. So he comes back. He's like, hey, you're. He's like, well, this is pretty serious because you have a suspended license.
You didn't know.
And I was like, I do. I was like, how? And he's like, well, I don't know how. He's like, but it says you have a suspended license. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I've never got any mail about it and all this stuff. And anyways, like, finally after like an hour.
Wait, no, but didn't he ask, are there any other licensed drivers in the car? And there was you and Isaac and Alfredo who are not licensed, but I was under a blanket and I am licensed, but I was laying under a blanket.
Oh, yeah, so it was kind of
that was even more of a problem.
And, if you turn around for a minute, off the road.
We'll switch someone out.
Yeah. So finally he was like, well, I could impound your car. You could sit in jail tonight. Just wait. You're not really, like you're not arrested, but you could stay there at the jail, and figure out something in the morning. And I was like, oh, God. And he's like, all right, just get home. Like, you're this close to home. He fucking gave me a $900 ticket.
What was the ticket for?
It was for no proof of insurance, running a stop sign, and suspended license.
But we went back to your court date.
Yes, I did go back. What happened is I got a ticket in Delaware like a year before, paid it, but they had never like sent the information to Washington State that I had paid it, so it got suspended. And so it was really hard to fix that part.
Oh, yeah,
it was
I know.
so impossible to like.
After I moved up here and just from Florida to Georgia, because my
Touching
license is
each
still
other.
Florida, trying to get the ticket paid that I was paying and make it proof that I paid it in Georgia is a pain.
So this is completely across the country too, and over like 2
Delaware.
years they've got to like go back through this paperwork and stuff. And but yeah, I drove all the way back out to Pendleton, and luckily it was like this hill. I mean, Pendleton parts of it, like where the courthouse is. It's like
When there wasn't even a gas
like an
station.
Andy Griffith show, you know.
Right.
It's like, and they. I was like the only guy in there, like I was there before the judge, like waiting for him.
And the judge loved you.
Yeah, the judge he signed me in, and then he's like, all right, and he like put on his robe and like went into the other room as like now as the judge also, and I got it down to like $200, which is pretty cool. And they didn't find the people in the back.
Well, they didn't see us.
Well, now the friend whose van you had borrowed, wasn't this also the one that would like routinely give you the wrong keys and you?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
and also destroyed half of our 7 inches in a van accident.
In a car accident.
In a car accident.
He got in a van accident,
And
and
destroyed our
all
first t-shirts.
this whole
Or
box
one
of
of
our
the
7 inches were in there, and they fell in a river.
In a river.
And I couldn't
Are these the
believe it.
$20 7 inches?
No, well, maybe nowadays
Yeah,
they should
they
be.
be.
And
They
then
better
he
be.
fished a bunch of them out, and we didn't know until years later. He's like, "Oh, here's some of the ones that I got from the van accident." And half of them are like broken.
There's like dirt
But
in the
then,
sleeves.
yeah, there was literally like pieces of like a river in the
fish.
sleeves.
Hopefully you sold them like
No,
that
we did.
with the river still in the
sold
sleeves.
a lot.
Oh yeah, we
of
sold
lot of
everything we
dirty
got.
We couldn't believe he was like, we were like, dude, I'm so sorry about the van and the accident. He's like, well, your 7 inches were in the van. And we were like,
I actually did see one of those 7 inches on Discogs, and the description was, these 7 inches were lost in a car accident in 2011, and only a few survived the crash.
This is $200.
this guy was
Yeah.
fishing and like pulled one up on his fishing line.
Didn't you like break into somebody else's van?
That was the Mean
Like,
Jeans broke into that
did.
same.
It was, but we were going on toward the Mean Jeans, and they were the ones to go get this van from Jonny Cat, which they gave him a key, but I don't think it was Jonny Cat's fault. I think it was Mean Jeans being stupid.
Well, it's a little bit.
They broke into they tried to get into the this van, and I was like, "Fuck, the key doesn't work." Jonny Cat obviously gave us the wrong key, you know. So they're
Because
like,
he's that kind of guy where you'd immediately think he gave you the wrong
Yeah.
key instead of you found the
well,
wrong
he was
van.
just like conversion van outside my house. He doesn't give you any other information,
Right.
and he's the kind of person like the key doesn't work.
so one of the Richard
Van
from Mean
stuff.
Jeans like sticks his arm like into the top of the window, and he's like reaching down to get him out the lock, and they got in, and then they're like putting the key into the ignition, and they're like, "Dude, it doesn't fit. It's like not working." Like Jonny Cat fucked us over, and they realized they're in the wrong
They
van.
broke it into a van.
They were like in the car, like driver
Rummaging
passenger
around.
seat, like ready to go.
And then they realize you just walk up the street and there's another van. And he works just fine. It's not a big deal.
This is the morning we were supposed to like leave for tour.
And then when
We
they
were
came,
like late.
they came to pick us up and they told us that story, we could not believe it. Like, you just broke into someone's fucking car at like 9 in the morning.
Imagine someone coming out and seeing them in the car and being like, what the
They're like,
fuck are y'all
no,
doing?
Jonny Cat sent us over here. They're like, oh yeah, right, Jonny Cat.
Right.
Johnny Cat.
Well, tell Mr. Cat.
We don't know his full name. No one actually does. Do you know his full name?
Yeah, he's a great character.
Johnny
in Portland.
Harriman or Harbin or something.
No, we don't know his full name.
Is there any restaurants, any eating situations that stick out?
Antijitos in LA is my favorite.
Antijitos.
Johnny Cat also showed
Johnny Cat showed us Antijitos in LA. Literally, when he took us down to LA, he wanted to call and order food before they closed and have them put it on the sidewalk so we could pick it up. And he was that good.
Johnny Cat.
Antijitos.
Antijitos
Antijitos.
on York and 54th.
Antijitos.
I'm gonna say
Might be closed now.
might be closed down.
But yeah, so we went on this tour. This guy Johnny Cat, him and his girlfriend Tina.
Is he in a band?
Yeah, he's in a whole bunch of bands, and he's a little bit old. Well, you know, I don't know. He's older than us. He's been in a bunch of bands. Like he's an old Portland punk dude, and
His girlfriend's Tina from the Trash Women.
right,
Yeah.
Oh,
They're in a
okay.
band together called Cyclops that we toured with.
right. So
Okay.
then one of our
They still
first
play.
tours, they were like, "Well, do you guys want to go down to just do California?" And we were like, "Cool," and they're like, "Yeah, we'll take our van. You just ride along with us." It's like kind of the first time we didn't have to do everything, you know, and. Come to find out, the tour was really just based around like restaurants that like they wanted to eat at, you
It's
know,
fun.
Yeah.
which was the best tour ever, probably
Yeah.
for me.
It was especially
It was
because they did
amazing.
everything. Like we just show up and play.
We met some
And
good people that tour.
they would
Met
drive us
some
around.
awesome bands. Met the Cormans that tour. They were so sick.
I mean,
That was a great
half
tour.
of touring is eating anyways.
Yeah.
I love that about touring.
They're like professional, like they know the like amazing
Like they're gonna
spot.
say no to Taco Bell because they know the best place. It's like
They know the weird little
town.
hole in the wall spot where you're like, I would like, really? That's a restaurant? You know?
And
like,
then they
really
have
good.
the menu in their pocket, and like literally the Antojitos menu they have in the car all the time, and they like knew what, and they order one of everything. So if we didn't know what to get, we could just try a little bit of all their food and figure it out.
It was really good.
So good. And
Jonny Cat would text me, like, we'd be back in Portland, Jonny Cat text me, he'd be like, if you're in California right now, I would get this. And look, like, have a list of items he would order from Antojitos. Like, he was, like, looking at the menu all day.
so good.
It's kind of like a seafood-centric Mexican food place. It's just like...
Antojitos.
Antojitos,
I hope it's still open. We drove all the way from Mesa, Arizona to LA on my birthday just to eat there.
Really?
It wasn't open, right?
It was, and they said, like, we'll be closed for, cleaning purposes or something, so it's like, they got shut down by the
We've been there before when they didn't have water. They're like, well,
they're
we
like, we
serve
ran
water.
out of water.
We're like, ooh,
Yeah.
it's so good. I mean, no one's ever been sick from there. It's great.
Or you go to Quality Seafood and we're down to the beach.
Oh, it's like a seafood market. You just order
outdoor market.
like grilled shrimp, and they just like, and it's just like this bucket of
just
shrimp.
tons of fish, like live stuff, and like that they caught that day. And it's just
on the
on,
beach.
just on ice and stuff, and you just pick out what kind of thing you want and tell them how you want it to be cooked. They'll cook it up and put it on a plate.
It's just tight.
And it's cheap.
It's so good.
It's so cheap. You'll eat like.
And there's a
king.
crazy old arcade right next door, so when you go after you're done, I mean, just like a disgusting like Nickelodeon.
It has like
arcade.
toys that are like, you like for 50 tickets you get a box of Band-Aids.
And they have like a,
or like a double-A battery.
They've always had the Judge Judy doll there, and I'm always like, oh, I wish I could get the Judge Judy doll.
It's not ironic. It's not like it's not hip.
Been there forever.
An
And
old
you always
family
eat
place.
so much, and you're in pain, and then you like ride the roller coaster. And
They have
you
like
just
one
vomit.
tilt-a-whirl. You know, it's like
you can win a toaster oven.
Yeah.
It's like stuff like that. It's like,
That's good. And then when we were in Austin, we
game
always go
stuff.
to P. Terry's. It's like there's only like 2 or 3, and it's just like a burger place in Austin that's so cheap and so good. Or like.
I always try to think of the places that I like to go in different cities. If there's anything that stands out, there always is when I think about it. But I always have to think about it. It's been a couple of years since I've done a really big tour, but that's always the thing. It's like it makes sense to me that a lot of musicians end up working as chefs and things like that. Because when you're touring around, like you're sampling food from everywhere, and you're getting all this food, and like. You end up finding these little hole-in-the-wall spots, and you find like these crazy restaurants that no one else in the world will ever see.
Yeah.
Because not only are you touring and seeing that, but then you end up staying with or befriending people who are old townies who've been there for forever.
And they want to show
know
you
everything about it. Yeah.
The one thing that like is cool about their town.
Right. Yeah.
Damn, in Milwaukee one time, the bartender at this place, just a nothing little bar, it was a nothing show or whatever, but the bartender there, he ended up being like, he was friends with Audacity, which is a band that's on Suicide Squeeze that we've known forever, and somehow he knew them, so he was like, yeah, I'll invite you over to our house, and he was training to become like a high-end cook or something.
Incredible chef.
Oh my god, it was fucking insane.
And like it was, we had to wait till the bar closed. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and he only lived a block down.
It's like a roast pumpkin soup where
like
he
some
roasted the pumpkin.
No, it was ox too. Like I remember saying oxtail, and it was like soup, which is normally like whatever, and it was the most amazing. And we like stayed up late to eat it, and it was amazing. And then he made us a breakfast soup the next morning. It was just like insanity. When you go to someone's house and they're like, I'm gonna make you this thing, and it's just like, what?
That's the other crazy thing is you have all this hospitality from people that are kind of strangers, and they open up their house to you because it's like, and then you find
like
out,
this guy right here.
but then you find out like they're old musicians, and so they get it. They know that like,
well, they know how it feels.
That's the biggest thing I think for me, like being on tour, is like you just are. For me, I'm always shocked at how good we sometimes get it at people we meet.
It's like, come to our house. Of society than most people are.
Because there's some cities that we know will always get a hotel in certain towns because we just don't know anyone. The people we know, like, we don't really want to stay at their house or whatever. And like, but then there's certain cities where like, oh, it's going to be great because we get to stay at Artie's house and like, it's going to be awesome. And we try to make our house in Portland like that too for a while. Where like any band, even if we don't know them that well, like even if we were out of town on tour, we'd ask our roommate, "Is this cool?" And then we'd give the band like the info, and they'd stay at our house.
Oh yeah, I've done that several times.
It makes such a huge
where I'm out
difference.
of town, and like, yeah, well, you know, and someone messaged me and like, yeah, I'm not there, but you can stay at my house. The key is here.
Yeah. And our roommate was almost always cool with it, and like the bands, it's just like makes such a huge difference. And our house was like comfy and nice, and we'd always tell them like, there's so many beds we have. That's the worst. People are like, stay at my house, and you get there, and it's like, here's the tile floor.
Yeah.
And the kitty litter box, you can put your head in that and you go to sleep, and that's it.
Or there's 10 dogs in their house.
Yeah.
Like,
or like some insane party that goes till 7 in the morning.
Like, you guys like to party, right? And we're like,
There's no.
Look, you're in a band. That means you want to party all night.
We've done that before, where we would send one person in, and then I remember we were in Florida recently, and like we sent Jordan in.
Where in Florida?
Florida?
Remember
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
It was in Jacksonville.
It was in Jacksonville.
Where were you guys playing?
We played at this bar. It's like a pig. It's like a pig on the logo.
Oh, Underbelly.
Underbelly.
I just remember, I don't know who it was. I mean, we didn't know them. We'd never met them before. And it was like, they didn't even go to the show. But our friend was like, here's a place you can stay. And I'm sure it was cool, but we just wanted to go to bed. And we sent our bandmate in. And he came back and he's like, there's a guy playing a banjo. And there's like a bonfire in the back. And there's all these like white guys with dreads. And they were like, you guys get first choice on the floor spots. And he came and told us that. And we were like, tell them we got a hotel and we're gonna go. We were just so tired. It was like,
I wonder who it was.
No, I mean they were like he said they were like high school kids. It was like no one that came to the show, and we were just like time to go.
Well, it's like exhausted. For example, like I'm looking to buy probably a house in the next year after we get the plant open, and one of the things that I'm wanting to do is like make sure I get a house that has enough room in the back, or already has like a separate house in the back that I can just be like, touring bands, you can stay here. Just have a place for touring bands to stay, you know, because I mean,
it's about cheap Airstream and
well, you know, and Sterling.
You don't even need like a shower or anything, just like something comfy to lay down on.
Well, Sterling does those. Sterling, Brighton's stepdad, does those. What do you call it? Boxcar. Like he builds houses out of boxcars. There's like set one of those up in the back just for specifically for touring bands to stay in.
It'd be cool if you buried it in the backyard, made like a bomb shelter.
Like the bomb shelter over here.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did you take a bomb shelter out?
No, I just trashed the fuck out of it.
A bomb went off in the shelter.
A bomb went off.
I got the first time Baywatch stayed here, and I didn't even really know. I'd met y'all once before when you were in town recording. And you guys had a night off, and you went just happened to go to the Star Bar, and Denny and I were playing.
That's right.
And met you then. And then next time met y'all was when you were playing the Corn Dog-a-rama at the Star Bar.
Oh yeah.
And it was just and you're just like, what's with all these fucking corn dogs?
Yeah.
It's the Corn Dog-a-rama, guys. Come on.
The name of the show.
Was that done by Palookaville?
No. It was the weird thing. It was like totally unrelated. I still have no idea what the hell it was all about. but I said, hey, you guys need a place to crash, and you could tell just kind of like. I don't really know this guy, but you can tell they just didn't. It looked like one of those. Well, I don't really want to, paratroop like one more night and shit. So they came here, and Jason was totally wiped out, and we were up. You were touring with Pookie, weren't you?
Pookie, yeah.
And so they'd
He came back with us too, maybe.
Yeah, they were all here, and we were up like. Sick late, and Jason had just.
I'm sure my brother was here. I'm sure he was talking the entire time.
He talked a considerable.
He passed out while we were here, I think.
Yeah. Jason passed out on the couch right there. I've got stag films going on, the projector right there and stuff. We all go to bed. Jason had been so wiped out. We just like draped a blanket over him. Nobody had the heart to like
partying around him.
When I woke up, I was so like freaked out. I was just like,
no idea where he was.
Fuck am I? Like,
you didn't remember coming here or anything?
Well, I mean, after a second, I was like, oh yeah, but I didn't really get to like see the house. Like, I I mean, I did.
Yeah, we
I was
basically
fucked up, and I was tired.
like escorted you down here and kind of flopped
I mean,
you
I
down.
was
You
like,
were
when I
white.
get tired, I'm just like, that's it. I'm just done.
So you woke up and there's like a fake bomb shelter over here, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, and
I
it's
think
so
it was-
dark. I'm like,
Yeah,
what
just
time
red
is it?
lights.
You know, like I didn't know what time it was, and there's
And new
music
girls on the
playing.
screen.
You know, and it's like, oh boy.
Terrifying place to wake up.
And then you walk out and see the skeleton, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What did I
it's
walk
also-
into?
Even this time, like I'm just getting the lay of the like, because it's like a confusing structure of like where's the bathrooms and everything. I'm always lost here.
Where isn't the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly. And he's,
Well, right?
where isn't the bathroom?
Oh, I didn't say we were at the Mondello Manor this
yeah.
evening. Yes.
The famous.
Yeah.
Infamous.
Infamous.
Where dreams gonna die.
Yeah.
My first day of recording goes to die.
Before I turn the recorder off, is there anything else that you guys think of that you would like to share with the world?
We have a new record that we're recording.
Yeah, that's
We
what we're
should say
here.
that.
here.
We don't know what it's called or exactly when it's coming out, but it's recorded here in Atlanta.
And where can we find you guys online?
Anywhere?
Google it, Spotify it, YouTube it.
Apple it.
Well, you go to
Facebook
Suicide
it.
Squeeze's website.
Yeah, that's
Suicide
what
Squeeze.
yeah.
Or you
There's the
You go to a
other
record label and buy a record, and
Yeah, suicidesqueeze.net is the best place to get things. But
Want a record or information about tours or other bands on the label?
Cool.
I have a. If you guys toured Japan,
no, we really
I
want
wasn't sure if
to.
you had or not.
We'd love to.
Because I'd be interested to hear y'all's experience versus
Oh, yeah.
Cash.
Japan.
Cash is the only person, well, and the other people in the cadet that had, like, for whom touring Japan was not magical at all.
Really?
No, I mean,
We want to go next time we're like near Australia because it's so cheap to go from there to there.
I touched on this in the because we did a wrap-up episode for season 2. And by the way, this will end up airing probably a couple months later, so we just all had Christmas dinner together. So I
Very
recorded
full.
some of that. But yeah, I mean, like, because we weren't asked to come to Japan. We were touring and played in DC, and it was one of the times where it was. We were kind of in danger when we were playing in DC. We met this guy named Matt Ellers, and he was like, "Hey, I used to live in Japan. You want to tour Japan?" And we were all like, "Yeah, sure, okay, whatever." He's like, "Okay, well, give me your emails."
that's how that shit always happens,
yeah,
too.
It's like, "Yeah, just give me your email. And I'll set up a tour of Japan." And we were just like, "Ha ha ha, yeah, whatever."
And then they email you and you're like, do I trust
And then,
this?
like 3 months later, we get an email with an itinerary. He's like, "Oh, you guys are going to Japan." And we're like, "Fuck, all right." And so.
That's like
It's
exactly our
exactly-
Australian
Yeah.
Yeah,
films.
how
Like,
everything
Yeah.
we've done happens. We're like, well, are we really doing? Like, until
Yeah.
we get on the airplane, we're like, don't really believe it's
Right.
happening.
And so, like, we gathered up enough money to get plane tickets to get over there. Couldn't take all of our equipment, just could take our guitars, couldn't take amps. There was no vehicle for us to tour in.
Oh,
We were on the trains all the time, so we had to carry everything with us, carry a big box of
God.
merch and everything. And
you borrow amps from bands.
every venue had amps, and they were the shittiest amps possible,
course.
and they were also the shittiest drum sets I've ever played on in my entire life. Like, the drum heads must have been 30 years old and have been beaten to hell and back, you know. And it's not that the tour wasn't great. It was great, and it was a lot of fun. But touring Japan like that, whereas most bands who go over there, it's because you're being asked to come over there,
Sure.
and you're
and
being...
they treat you so nice.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this is like...
The uninvited guest.
Right, this is like touring here for your first tour in a shitty van, playing shitty shows, but doing that in Japan.
Yeah,
Oh my god, did they speak English?
No.
it's Japan.
Well, no, but like, I've had friends
you
where they
always
have like
hear-
a person that like helps
Right.
you out. And
You always hear that everyone over there speaks English. And maybe they do, but they were not speaking it to us because they knew that their English was broken, so they were embarrassed to speak it to us. In Tokyo, people could speak to you. And we did our first show, we met this guy, Yoshi, and he was determined that if he followed us around, he like decided not to go to work that day and just to go with us. So he was our interpreter. But the reason he was our interpreter is because he thought that he could then go back to America with us to meet American women.
oh
That's a
wow,
sick plan.
that is cool.
That
Good
was
job, Yoshi.
that was his reason for going with us. Is he
He
wanted to
picked
meet
the wrong
American
band.
women. The cadets were like a nerd
They
band.
were like the least laid band in
Right.
Jacksonville, which is...
Have you ever heard that band Emperor X?
Yeah.
He was our bassist. So we were a nerd band.
Was that
Chad Matheny.
Ryland?
What now?
Never mind. It's a different band.
His name is Chad.
Oh, okay.
He was actually the original organ player
heard
in the
the name,
Fist
though.
before I...
Yeah, he was Ernie Fiss. Yeah.
he-
Yeah, I mean, it was fun and it was great, but we're playing... And the funny thing is I had someone on the podcast, Lenny, and he said he went over to Japan. I was like, isn't it weird that they don't clap? He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, when we were over there, no one clapped, and they told us that was the culture. And he was like, oh, no, they clap for us. We're like, oh, all right.
That's awesome.
I remember seeing pictures of y'all. Didn't you basically sleep in the train stations most?
Sometimes we did, but we also stayed at, like, these... hostels. There was a couple of them called Apple House around, and we would stay in these weird hotels. There was a couple of times because we actually got paid, and the reason we got paid is because this was a pay-for-play type situation where, like, the bands who opened up for us had to go out and sell tickets for the show, and whoever sold the most tickets got to play with us. And I felt bad for them because it's like we're just the cadets that no one gives a shit about.
Oh, no.
And not only that, but like. We were a weird band. Like, they liked, like, anthemic bands that you could sing along to because they didn't necessarily understand English, but you can chant along to it. It was great. We were not that band at all. We were not a catchy band. We were a weird kind of mathy indie rock band. And so, like, so we got paid so that we could stay. Sometimes we stayed at, like, the traditional Japanese, like, sliding door, bathhouse type of places. But there were times where we had to, like, sleep in a park or sleep in a train station or sleep on the train. And also carrying our equipment around with us everywhere.
Carrying your equipment around is the worst.
You remember seeing pictures of y'all just, like, huddled up, like, next to your equipment in a train station. It's like I've never seen less joy in the heart of that.
Well, Chad at the time was a vegan.
Oh, man. That's like when Andrew went over.
Our friends, the Mean Jeans, Andrew, the drummer of the Mean Jeans, he hates fish.
He doesn't eat seafood.
Oh, God.
Seafood, and everything has, like, fish shit on it.
Fish stock.
Yeah.
That was the thing is, like, this is 2001, and so, like, veganism wasn't as known as it is now. So it's like, and Isaac, who's in the Fist, at Harmonious Fist with us, he's a vegetarian. And so, like, we had Yoshi trying to explain to them no meat. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's no meat in it. But it was cooked in chicken and fish stock.
Still cooked in
so it's
fish.
like, no, they still can't eat that. So the pictures of Chad at the beginning of the tour, and mind you, when people tour Japan, they do a couple of dates. We did it an entire month.
Oh my God.
Not realizing that was a lot.
Jesus.
Not realizing, like, where the fuck are you going to go for a month in Japan, right?
Yeah.
So the beginning of the tour, Chad looks healthy. The end of the tour, he looks like he hasn't eaten in a month, which he basically hadn't.
Oh, just like... What would he eat?
So he would buy bags of rice
and beer
and bananas.
Oh my God!
And so he would cook his own rice wherever we went and eat bananas. That was pretty much all he ate.
Cook his own rice?
Yeah, we'd have to go somewhere.
I can't even do that at my house. All right.
We had to go somewhere where he'd go and had to cook his own rice because he couldn't have anyone else cook it because they cook it in fish stock.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
There's an interview I found. I printed out for you all if you saw an interview with Tina. It was not an interview; it was her tour diary, the Trash Women's Japanese tour. And and she talks about it. I need to find it somewhere upstairs, but she made it's funny you mentioned that, like, everything's in fish stock, where she's like, yeah, we went to this great burger place and they all taste like fish. Why does everything in Japan taste like fish?
Because it's all
it's all cooked in fish stock.
Why would you go to Japan and get a burger?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
although
you can't eat anything else.
I do, speaking of food, I do remember we'd been eating Japanese food the whole time. We just kind of wanted something not Japanese, which is stupid because we're in Japan. And so we went to an Italian restaurant.
Amazing.
In
Japan.
Japan.
That's what we did when we were in Prague. We went and got, like, spaghetti, basically. Like,
that was a bad idea because there is no cheese in Japan. They don't.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have. There is no Japanese cheese. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. The best cheese you can get is in McDonald's.
Right.
Seriously. And so, like, we were eating at this Italian restaurant where the cheese was like plastic. It had no flavor. It was weird, and like all the dishes were almost right, but not quite right.
Oh, yeah. That's like going to Australia and getting Mexican food.
Oh,
like,
God.
Oh my God,
it's ridiculous.
It's
funny. Or Canada, yeah. It's like that's funny.
yeah. I mean, even in Europe, when we were really excited at first when we got to Europe, we were like, oh, the food in the gas station's so good. And after like 4 days of eating gas station food, which is good, we were like, if I eat another fucking baguette, like a weird croissant with like brie on it, I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah.
Because at first it's great, but then every day you eat like weird salami.
I mean, we had the best sushi I've ever eaten in my life. Had the best seafood I've ever eaten in my life. But after a month, you're like, okay, I just want a fucking burger.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, you walk into McDonald's, and you know how you eat McDonald's here? It looks nothing like the picture.
Yeah.
It looked exactly like the picture.
Like in a scary way?
Yeah. Like, it was like the best McDonald's I've ever had in my life. And like, because over there, I don't know how it is now, but at that time, those were good jobs. Like, they paid well. Like, the McDonald's over there, they're all really nice. All the food was nice.
Yeah.
It was cooked perfectly. It looked exactly like the picture, and they like took pride in making it right.
That's
and it was really good McDonald's.
Yeah.
When I was in Australia, I had really good McDonald's.
Yeah.
They like really, because the guy who owns McDonald's is from Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so like they have like crazy like halloumi cheese, and like the way they make everything is like perfect there. And so, like, a lot of my favorite burgers I've ever had were at McDonald's in Australia, in the middle of nowhere.
And they have weird burgers too, right? Like in Japan, they had like teriyaki burgers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think you could get lamb. I think
lamb is really, really common there. But,
and they have a little like coffee shop part of their.
Well, in Australia, they don't do drip coffee; they just do like espresso.
And
so
espresso's like really big. They're like coffee is like they're real like, oh, we're the best in the world at this shit. You know?
Is it true?
It's good, but they just don't do drip at all. So you can't get any drip coffee, and there's no iced coffee, really. You have to get, like, espresso, so you get, like, an Americano, maybe. But if you want, like, a cup of coffee, like, a large would be like that. And it's just, like, a couple of special shots in, like, hot water. But there's no drip.
They do really have really good coffee there. And more than it's good, it's, like, everywhere you go, you can get good coffee. Like, you know, the gas station, like, they have these machines that make it, and it's like, fuck, like, this is better cappuccino than you get at fucking
because in America if you get drip
here.
Coffee from a gas station, it's going to be disgusting. They don't know how to make it, but in Australia it's just like a machine. You just hit a button and an amazing espresso shot comes out.
Yeah, they do
and it's like a
job.
$1 for that.
Is there anything over there specifically? Like, I remember Chad talking about going over there and wanted to try Vegemite, and it was like the most disgusting
I love
thing you'd
Vegemite.
ever. Yeah?
You have to do it right.
You have to do it right. Because in America, when I first tried Vegemite, I used it like jam, where you put it on like thick. But what you do is you like toast the bread and you put butter on, and then you do like a really light, tiny spread of it, and it's so good.
Yeah?
You make like a grilled cheese sandwich, it's amazing.
The more you eat it, the more you can handle, so you can put more on it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty strong flavor,
Yeah,
right?
the flavor-
Really salty, like
it's like soy sauce, sort of.
Sounds amazing.
But
Awesome.
I love it, and I couldn't find it when I got back, and I was really bummed because I got really used to it. Like waking up and having Vegemite toast.
I'm surprised you can't find Vegemite in Portland.
Well, no, I can, but I was staying at his house in Arizona, and you cannot find it in Arizona.
We ain't got shit in Arizona.
Where in Arizona do you live?
Mesa, like right outside of Apache Junction,
Dang.
like real far east Mesa.
Lots of Chick-fil-A and Taco Bell. And no
Spent a
Vegemite.
little time in Corrales one time.
Oh,
About a
okay.
week. No, that's in New Mexico. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But I have spent some time in Albuquerque.
Close enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Tracy Shed, who I toured with, Jimmy, her husband, who is the guitarist, his father lives in Corrales.
Well,
It's fucking beautiful there.
It's beautiful, but it's just like, well, at least where he lives, it's beautiful, but it's strip malls.
Yeah. It wasn't in Corrales.
And
Corrales is like a little tiny town where everything is like adobe and all swamp coolers, you know, that type of thing. Like, I don't think people on the East Coast know what swamp coolers are. It's like the dry air version of air conditioners.
Yeah.
yeah, it's where I live. It's like Apache Junction is basically like you just go east of Phoenix, and you eventually get to just like the desert, like Superstition Mountains, and if you take the old main road, there's just like this one part of town that's like it's kind of this old. It's still kind of like old, kind of 70s, like.
It's like those little towns when you're on tour and you stop in a small town and you feel like the time froze in the 80s.
Yeah,
right.
that's where he lives.
Yeah, Apache Junction's, there is stuff that is changing now, but there's still like some really bizarre, weird, hick kind of shit there. It's really a lot of drug stuff there too. You know, it's kind of like methy kind of area, but
Break that.
It's very breaking
yeah.
down.
But it is still really cool though too. There's like really
good
weird,
Goodwills.
Oh,
Really good what?
insane.
The Goodwills are amazing because everyone's elderly. Everyone's dying and they don't know what they have, and there's no young people trying to buy up their shit. And so you go to Goodwill and everything's like
there
50 cents, and it's like the coolest shit: leather jackets and jean jackets.
That's another great thing about tour that we haven't talked about much is like finding stuff at thrift stores in these small little towns.
I remember one of our first. We went to Tucson, and because Tucson just. No one needs jackets, and I bought so many jackets, and I immediately got back to Portland where that's like... It's Tucson. Yeah, I got back to Portland where that shit is sells for so much, and just like you go on tour and you just collect stuff, and you go back to Portland and just sell it all and make so much money, and like cowboy boots and stuff like that.
Yeah, Arizona's. That's
what made you move there?
What's that?
What made you move there?
I was working. My brother. Well, my dad has a concrete company, and my brother like kind of took it over. Now my dad's getting older, but my dad still works it, so I went there to go work with him.
It's concreting when we're not on tour.
Concreting.
Now y'all
cement.
Y'all do cement?
Currently, y'all live in 3 different states, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You live in California, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where is it again?
Long Beach.
Long Beach. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to live in Glendale.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean,
what made you move there?
Huh?
What made you move there?
Well, my mom lives there. I'm from California anyways, and I wanted to go back. And I just wasn't having a good time in Portland anymore.
So how do you guys do the recording? Do you just get together somewhere and practice for a couple weeks?
Yeah, we all went to Jason's house in Mesa and practiced for a month.
We've been there for a month, and we all left in...
We went to Australia, and we flew back to LA. You fly into LA, and then we just drove to my place.
Yeah.
And so me and Chris stayed in Australia for an extra month for fun.
I stayed in Vietnam.
He went to Vietnam. I did a road trip through Australia, and then after we were done, we both came back and then went to his house, and we just have been hanging out there for a month. So I've been back to Portland since September.
I haven't really been living. Like I moved my stuff into a storage unit in Long Beach, and the next week I went on tour. So I haven't been back since.
Yeah.
So
I've been living out of one bag since September.
I'm just paying rent on the storage unit every month.
Better than paying rent for a place that you don't live in.
It's only like $80 a month.
At least you don't live in the storage unit.
That's true. Thought about it.
Do you have a place when you get back?
My mom lives in Long Beach. I've been crashing on her couch, you know.
Are you planning on getting a place?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hope I can.
This may not end on. We're just talking now, but
Yeah. I would love to just get my own spot in Long Beach because Long Beach is rad. And my first impression was like I want to like live in LA. Like all my friends are in LA and like there's shit happening. And the more I spend in Long Beach, the more I'm just like Long Beach is fucking sick. Like there's not all the bullshit that LA has, and you're by the beach. And it's just a lot more chill, you know.
Yeah.
And my mom's house is like 10-minute walk to the beach.
Yeah.
And
it's not that far from LA.
No, it's
if
like,
you need to go to LA, it's not bad.
I don't drive or anything or have a license, but like the train, just on the street, it's like an hour train.
Yeah.
Into LA proper.
And you have friends and all you can stay with. If you want to go to a show and get drunk, you can just like crash at their house.
Yeah. So at some point, you know, get my own spot. But I figured when I get back, just hang with mom for like, you know,
And your mom
a few weeks, and she would love that, and to like get my bearings together, you know.
Chevelle legally can't return to Portland, basically, right?
I don't know when I'm going back. Yeah, that's the only thing that sucks is that everyone's down south, and I have the van way up north in Portland. So every time we want to do something, I have to like drive the van 2 days down.
You're over it by the time it even begins.
And so now, like, I've just been like sticking down here, or like down, not here, but like down where they live. And then when we get back in I get back in January because I'm going back to Australia for a couple weeks. When I get back, I could go back to Portland, but then we're gonna go back on tour in March, so I have to like go back, work for like a month, then drive back down.
Make sure you don't get another ticket.
So you kind of fall in love with Australia.
No, yeah, Australia's great.
Yeah, it's really
Who doesn't love Australia?
I've never been.
Everyone's nice.
It's amazing. It's summer right now. It's 100 degrees right now.
After living in Florida for as long as I did, I like the seasons up here. I can't go back and live somewhere that's hot. I just can't do it.
Yeah, good.
But in like Melbourne, it's kind of like Portland, where it's like rainy, and like the closest place to it is Antarctica. So like the water's cold. So like but then you can drive one day to Sydney and it's like hot. So like it's pretty good. And there's like caves and lots of cool stuff, koalas and kangaroos and.
What was the thing you were telling me about? Like you played at some hotel when there was like some football game and the Ockers went berserk or something?
Because they have their own like rugby. It's not rugby, but it's called like Australian football. Is that
footy?
Oh yeah. They call it footy, and it's like they like run in a circle and they climb on each other, and it's like the hugest thing there. And we were staying at this. Like,
they all kind of lock arms and like go around in a circle, right?
But they like.
There's a couple different versions there in Australia of like a rugby type football game. And there's this one that's like really regional, and it's like a little bit.
It's mainly Melbourne, Sydney only. Like, there's not even a Perth team. When I like asked about it, like, it's only like in the bottom East.
It's like their own thing, so they're like really into it. You know, it's like super
it's like
condensed, like, and people fucking lose their mind. And
I've never seen anyone more passionate. Like, we were staying at this hotel, we were just like up in our rooms, and it was like the second to last game of this like huge season, and it was like packed full of men just singing and like crying and locking arms. We couldn't even get in to like look at the screen because it was just like the hugest deal. And I kept going down and being like, "What did they do?" And it was hours of this. It wasn't even like
just
the last
all day,
the last minute, like at the Super Bowl, like people just freak out the last minute. This was like all night,
the entire game. It's bizarre, and like everybody likes it. It seems like it's like kids, like they're in bands and shit. Like
they pretend like they don't, but they care.
Everybody like sits around the TV like, oh, fuck!
And
you
then,
know, they're just like,
well, and the team that was
out.
supposed to win won because there was like the Bulldogs from Melbourne, and then I don't remember who was from Sydney.
Swans.
The
Swans, the
from
accursed
Sydney.
Swans.
Like, kind of the prissy, like,
well, the Melbourne
Swans,
team had been around
know?
forever, and they were kind of the poor team that had been around forever, and they never really won, but they were like the poor guys, and then the Swans were like the rich team that were put together by the government or something. And of course,
So the names are
Melbourne
apropos.
team won, and people lost their absolute minds. Like, went crazy, and it's all that anyone wanted to talk about. Every time I went on the radio, it was like, the Bulldogs, blah, 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 blah. It was just, and it's crazy because to us, that doesn't matter whatsoever.
Right.
And even there, they actually like hear about the Super Bowl and stuff. Like, they get other sports, but that sport is like the biggest deal.
It's because it's their thing, you know, and
Yeah.
they're like really into
But
it.
watching it, it's I love watching it. It's the gayest sport I've ever seen in my life because they're all these like thick men. They wear these really short shorts and they're all over each other, and they're allowed to, like, one of the plays is that you jump on someone else's back, like some guy leans down and you run up his back and you like kick a ball off his like head basically, and they do all this and they're fighting the whole time. It's so cool.
It looks like there's no rules at all, and there's really not like. You know, like in our football, there's like a lot of pauses. You know,
Yeah.
Well, what's the goal? Like, what are they trying to do?
You're kicking a ball through
I mean, it's
uprights.
similar to rugby.
It's kind of like soccer and rugby, kind of. But this field is round, and the boundaries are sort of like you can just sort of go wherever it seems like.
And that was, maybe it's rugby, but I remember in the news there was that one thing where the guy stuck his finger up the other's butthole. Remember that? Well, I think
That's
that
like
was
a thing.
I think
It's
that
like
was
a
right
play.
because
You know?
they fuck with each other.
It's
and,
legal.
And like they had to make a rule where you can't do that because the teams would fuck with each other and they'd get together, and then when you go to the other team and you'd actually go through his shorts, and so it'd be like the shorts were like the barrier, and you go bah, and like do that to fuck
It's
with
like
the
a
guy.
play, you know.
And that was like a news
suicide
story.
squeeze.
Yeah, but they would actually do stuff like that, and that's why I love, because I'm used to like American football where it's like pretty boring, and these guys are like, their balls are basically hanging out and they're like rubbing all over each other. It's the gayest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's awesome. I mean, it's funny, like,
Gay sports.
yeah, gay sports, but you know, even in Europe, like even like the indie rock kids are into football out there.
Yeah.
But here, and I've noticed that some of my older friends who are indie rockers, quote unquote, are getting really into football here. But that was always in other places. That was always like here. I don't know if it's seen as like establishment or like redneck or whatever. So the alternative kids reject it, but they don't in other countries. They don't
I feel
reject
like
the
they're not
sports
as
as much.
in a lot of other countries. People are more open to like they don't use the things that they do to define them quite
Right.
as much. Like they can still be like, oh, I'm like punk or something, but I can still like to go to like an Irish pub, you know, like and you know what I mean. Like I can go to like. You know, some place that like
not
I see an
rules.
Irish pub, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's not really
They're
my
restricted
style.
by their-
Yeah, they
you
can
know.
do whatever they want.
But they're more open to all kinds of stuff, which is what I think makes like the music scene in Australia really good, and in Europe too. Is like it's like, oh yeah, I'm into like we were talking about earlier, like oh I'm into like punk, but I also like
Everything else.
techno music, you
Right.
know, like this kind of stuff. So they're more open to like different kinds of shit.
And they're not as embarrassed. Like when we were in Europe, there are people like, we're going to go to this like weird dance club. Are you guys cool with that? And then we get there and be like, in America, this would be weird, but they're into it, and like they weren't embarrassed to show us this stuff.
The nice thing about Australia too, they're not as judgy as in Europe. So like in Europe, people are like into a lot of different stuff, but like they'll come up to you after the show and be like, yeah, like second solo not so good, you know?
Yeah.
Like they'll just like give you shit, you know? Like they're not being mean, but they're just like, I didn't really like your set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep trying, you know? But in Australia, like
Everyone's
they're
just
like sick, you know?
People just are stoked
like
to
all
see
kinds of
bands
stuff.
play.
Especially if you're American, like they have American stuff.
They love talking about Simpsons and like because they were all raised on American shit,
right?
And they want to tell you about like Home Alone and like Simpsons. That's like all they know.
When I was in Japan at a weird time, and there was this big neo-nationalist movement going on, and there were some young punk bands. I think one of them was called Eastern Youth that broke a little bit in America, but it was all about like rejecting all of American culture. We were over there right at that time, and I remember walking through a few demonstrations where we were singled out, and like Yoshi's like, yeah, we got to go, because it's like,
wow,
we could hear them yelling, didn't know what they were saying, but people would turn around and look at us, and it's like, oh shit, we're not in the right place right now.
No, we're not American.
Yeah, Canadian. I'm Canadian. I did that one time. We were at the A-Bomb Museum, and we were on Miyajima Island.
You said you're Canadian?
I pretty much, there was a guy with a backpack that had a Canadian flag on it, and the rest of the cadets guys had left, and I was determined to read every single placard in this museum because it was heart-wrenching, And so I saw people like the really old Japanese people looking at these and kind of looking around at me, and so I just hung out, stuck by the Canadian guy. I just followed the Canadian guy everywhere. It's like, I don't know, I'm Canadian. I didn't bomb you guys. Sorry. Yeah.
So I noticed that I went on a road trip to the Outback, and I was with an Australian person, and then he would be talking, and then the moment I would talk, they'd be like, "Oh, are you Canadian?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm American." They're like, "Oh," and they'd always explain to me like, when we meet Canadians and we say, "Are you American?" they get really mad. And I was like, that's so funny, like that a Canadian, like that they were like, we always wanted to guess American because that's more like normal, because it's more, well, just like there's more Americans that would be out there. But the moment we say, "Are you American or Canadian?" they get super mad at us. So we always say, "Are Canadian" first.
That's funny.
What? Okay, no, I'm not.
Weird.
And then I'd have to be like, "No, I'm American. Sorry."
Oh, okay. That's what we wanted you to be in the first place.
And then immediately like, "What about this Trump thing?"
And that's our show for this week. Load In, Load Out is a tour story podcast produced in Athens, Georgia by me, Bill Fortenberry. Our hosts are Cash Carter and Ryan Lewis. If you're enjoying the show, head on over to iTunes and hit us up with a review. If you're out seeing a band in the wild this week, make your way to the merch table and make a purchase. It makes a big difference to a small business. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.